Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ikemji, and in today's tutorial I'll be guiding you on how to make a frontal zip on your trouser, or you can actually call it a zipper flap on your trouser. So whichever way you know it, that's what we're going to be learning today, and I'm going to guide you on that process. Even if you're a beginner and or you are a bit into sewing but finding it difficult to actually make this video is definitely for you. So please do engage and let's get started. So to begin, here are the materials I'll be working with: the front part of my trouser, the material for my trouser flap, and my zip. So you can see I just needed the front part of my trouser for the purpose of this video. I already have a video which I will link to this video in particular, where I already taught how you can actually cut out your trouser. So here, this is just the back or the wrong side of your trouser, and here this is the flap. I've already used my chalk to indicate the back section because the front and back look alike. And here's my zip. I would advise you actually use the short one, which is recommended for a zipper flap, but this is what I have and I can actually improvise with it. So what I'll basically do next now is to actually open up my trouser. Remember that our trouser have the back and the front. So here now, this is just the front part. Like I said earlier, I'm just working with the front. So I'm just going to open it up. Here I have my right side of my trouser and the left front side of my trouser, which I have already labeled it, and that is what I'm going to be working with. Okay, so and this is actually the middle part of the trouser. So for me to proceed now, I'm just going to keep the right one aside, and we're going to start working with the left one. So right here, this is the materials I'm going to be using to create my zipper flap, and I've gone ahead to indicate the back. So how I was able to cut out this was that, remember I said earlier that we do have a short zip in creating our zip flap, and that zip is usually 7 inches most times. So here I was able to get 8 because I made sure I provided allowance for my word joining, and the width I'm working with for this particular one is 4 inches. Okay, just take note on what I said: 4 inches by width and 8 inches by length with allowance, making it 8 inches, and this is actually based on our zip. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do right away is to get the other material, which is the half, this particular one. Here we're going to also have 8 inches, but the only difference between this and the other big one is that this one here is actually 2 inches. So that's the difference. And again, when you're making, you are supposed to get a curve at the end. So when you cut your piece of 8 inches by 2 inches width, you are going to create a curve at the end, which makes a big difference between this and the other one. The next we're going to do now is to take this particular flap now, and we're going to ensure that the right sides of both the flap and the right side of the trouser are facing each other, and look at the way I'm actually placing them. That is the exact way you're supposed to place it. Then you use pin to actually secure those parts, and then we're going to proceed over to the machine. So right here now, I've already placed it, and I'm just going to sew it down carefully, and after that I'm going to proceed in top stitching it. And to top stitch, you are going to open it up like this, and you're going to top stitch it towards the zipper flap. So after top stitching it now, this is basically what you're going to have, and you're going to give it a good press. So one thing I'll advise you is that always endeavor to actually weave all the sections, but I don't have a weaving machine, so I'm just going to do that after the whole sewing. So like I said, this is basically what you are going to have, and the next I'll go over now is to actually turn it over so you can actually still see what the front looks like. So next I'll be doing now is to actually open it up so that I can go ahead to put my zip. So this is my zip, and basically this is the front part of the zip, but I'm going to be turning it so that the right sides of both the zip and the trouser can be facing each other, and make sure that the end of the zip is in line with these ending parts, you understand. And also, I don't want you to actually put the zip towards this end of the top stitched parts. Let it just be far apart, maybe 0.2 inches far apart from that top stitch area. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this over and stitch at this side. Now look basically where I'm actually stitching. I'm not stitching at that other part, but I'm stitching towards the end of the zip flap. Okay, take note of that, please. So this is basically what you are going to have. As you can see, this other part of the zip, I didn't touch it because that's where the right part of the trouser is going to come in. So but before that, I am going to just fold it this way so that I can, stitch it down. So this part where I'm going to be using my pin to actually secure it is the part where I'm going to be stitching that curve line you always see in your front zip. So I'm just using the pin to help me hold it down while sewing and also guide me in sewing. So you can see now this very point here, I'm just going to fill that iron. So I'm not going to sew on the iron, instead I'm just going to sew where can be sewable. Okay, so I'm just going to use my chalk to draw that curve line. Okay, so remember, like I said, don't sew on the iron so you don't break your needle. So I'm just going to sew on that zip, on the zip itself, and I'm going to draw the curve so that I will go down to the end point of this zip flap. So when you are stitching now, like I said earlier, when you're stitching, leave these other parts. That's this part where the right part of the trouser is going to be coming in. Leave the parts. Just start from the beginning of that zip directly on top of it and not the iron. So you're going to start stitching from there and down to the this beginning of the zip flap. So this is just me carefully doing that. So this is basically what you're expected to have by the time you are done. You can see that the flap is already coming out, and if you see now, the zip cannot actually come out because I've already gone ahead to stitch directly on the zip. And the reason why I told you to not start from the beginning of the other side is so that the right part of the trouser can actually sew without having any problem. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do now is, before I'm going to put my trouser, I'm just going to take my chalk to align it to the other part of the zip, which I have marked it. Then I'll also go ahead and mark it behind. So next I'm going to do is to introduce the other flap of the trouser. So I'm just going to fold it. I would advise that you actually weave it, but since I don't have a weaving machine, I'll just go ahead and stitch it down so that it can be held together. So after stitching it down now, I'm just going to add it then to my zip. So I'm going to add it behind. Just look at the way I'm adding it now. I'm not adding it in front, I'm adding it at the back. So please always take note of how I am doing it so you don't add it the wrong way. So you can see I'm adding it at the back and not in line. I marked in front and at the back. I'm not adding it in front where the normal zip is. I'm adding it the one at the part where I marked at the back of the zip. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and stitch it down. So after stitching it down, next I'm going to do is to introduce the other part of the trouser. Okay, so this time around I'm going to be adding the trouser in front. So you can see for yourself, this is basically what we have after adding the second flap. So this is basically what you're going to have. So if you're not having this way, you're not getting it, and really I want you to get it, so please really pay attention so you can get it. Okay, so this is what the back is supposed to look like. Okay, so just carefully do it, and I promise you're going to get it. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get my other part of the trouser, which is the right side, and I'm going to add it from the point where I marked my with my chalk. You can see it there. I'm just going to make it show very well. So I'm just going to be adding it. Make sure that my right trouser starts from that very point. So when I'm adding it, I'm going to make sure the right side of both the left trouser and the right trouser are facing each other, just the way I'm doing it. Okay, make sure it does not shift. Ensure that it's well aligned together before you can sew. If possible, use pin to help you and make your work easy. So I'm just going to sew that part, and I'm just going to stop there. So I'm not going to take it down. Rather, I'm now going to turn the outfit the other way around so I can join these two parts together, because it will be easy. Because if you just take it down, you're going to experience some difficulty. That's why I stop there, turn it upside down, that is the other way around, so that I can access the other parts and stitch it down. This will make your work easy. So you're going to sew it down, and to a point where you cannot further in sewing it. That will be the end. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So by the time you are done there, you stitch it and turn the dress over to the front. So you can see that this is basically what you have. The dress is actually coming out already, but trust me, there's actually an opening somewhere. That is it. You can see my hand is already entering inside. So that part now, if you look at your trouser always, if you have one, you can check it. You're going to always see a top stitch in front. Now that is where this top stitch is going to come in. So I'm just going to stitch from that part that you're seeing open there down to this curve where we have our curve region. So that stitch opening is usually like 1 inch. Okay, it's not even up to 1 inch. Let's say 0.75, just to top stitch that point and reach towards the curve region. So I'm just going to turn the dress upside down, and I'm going to stitch that part. So from there, I'm just going to top stitch it, turn it the other way around to connect back to that very point where I stitched and to my curve, and we're going to get what we exactly want. So you see now we have already gotten our zip very, very well. Our hand is no longer passing through. Everywhere is covered, nothing is opening, and this is basically what it looks like. So if you open it up, see what you have. Very easy, very okay, very neat. So after that, now you can go ahead and cut out your excess zip and also put your band to your trouser. So if you find this video very helpful and you learned a lot from it, please and please do subscribe, turn the notification bell, hit the like button, share to your friends who you might want them to also learn this. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.